I am live. All right. If I got any crowd going on here, I need to shave a little bit. That's one thing about getting older. Your hair don't grow everywhere you want it to grow, but where it does grow, it grows like wildfire. I wish it just stopped growing altogether. And that way I can keep it even. But it's okay. Minor inconvenience. Not really concerned. She got me a chair. Welcome to live chat. All right. Let's do a poll while we're waiting. What should the Ravens? Buffalo. Dethrone. All right, this is Sports for Real with Coach Hall. Coming to you live from this cold North Florida morning. Yesterday was about 60, 65. Woke up this morning and it dipped down to like 29. Now, it's not even 10:30 yet and still below 40 degrees. That's kind of odd for us. But they warned us and it's supposed to get even worse tonight. Will it? I don't know, but it doesn't even matter. As long as you're here to endure it, what difference does it make? Just stay out of the cold, keep yourself warm, everything will be fine. It'll pass, and by the end of the week, it'll probably be 80 degrees again. Gonna regenerate real quick is my point. And that's where it's different from what happens to these teams in these playoffs. As you know, the NFL playoffs wrapped up its divisional round yesterday. With an epic battle last night with the Baltimore Ravens and Buffalo Bills. And the Bills squeaked out one last night. A little divine intervention, if you will. The cold weather, played a big part in last night's game and caused a lot of slipping and sliding and drop passes by both teams, but critical times really hurt the Ravens. You can't say that Buffalo had a tremendous advantage because Baltimore plays in cold weather too. So we won't use any excuses. But I told you guys earlier in the day that game was going to come down to who made the fewest amount of turnovers will win that game. And sure enough, Baltimore turned it over 3 times, and that was the difference in the game. All right, this is Anna Rawat from the UK says, hi. How you doing, Rawat? I told you guys earlier that whoever made the fewest turnovers will win, and that turned out to be the case. Now, Baltimore, they seem to be snake bitten. I'm not a Ravens fan. I'm a Steelers. But, I try to tell it like it is. Now, I give Lamar Jackson hell for not being able to come through when he needed to come through with the passing game. But last night, he actually did that. He came up with an 88-yard drive to tie the game. And then the pass that Mark Andrews dropped, it was there. Now, he could have got it out a little quicker or maybe took something off it. I don't know. But I think it hit the man in the hands. He should have caught the ball. And that turned out to be the difference in the game. But when you think about Jackson, and another thing why I say the Ravens might be snake bitten, if you remember when Henry was with Tennessee and they went into Baltimore and they upset them that night, all during that year, Jackson, his receivers made him look real good. He would be way off the mark. He would be underthrowing, overthrowing, throwing behind him. But those receivers made him look good all year long. But in that night against Tennessee, they were dropping a whole lot of passes. He was actually on that night, and they were dropping the passes. Kind of like what you saw last night. Now, going back from then to now, he's greatly improved as a passer. And I told you, even amidst all my criticism, that he has improved as a passer. I needed to see him throw the ball when he needed to the most, and he had never shown me that. But last night he did take the team down the field to put him in position to win that game. So he has to do that consistently if Baltimore is going to get over the hump. All right, let's get going with these comments. Dougie says 2 personal fouls against Houston were ridiculous. Well, they were, but you know, you're dealing with Mahomes. Anytime that you got Mahomes, being that he's the darling of the league, they're going to get the calls. And he's going to be running along those sidelines to draw those late personal foul penalties. And until somebody knocks him out, he's going to continue to do it. So if they're going to penalize you anyway, why not take a shot at him? Sonu Mishra says, hello, sir, how are you? So does Pima Yishi, says hello. Hello to all of you. But again, Baltimore, they just can't seem to get over the hump. Now, what I don't understand is, what were they thinking when they first started the game? They like to run Henry out of the shotgun and let him run it up in there, get behind those pulling guards, but it takes, it gives the defense a half a step to recover when you have the back in the shotgun. But if you hand it to the back out of the I formation, he's going to get there a lot quicker than he would if he's standing up getting the ball. Now, the Ravens, with the beef that they have front, they're greatly effective at what they do. But at the same time, that little half a second makes all the difference in the world. And then when they started to go on the center and coming out in the second half, they became much more effective. Now, where am I from? Seguro Ghetto. I'm from Florida, Jacksonville right now to be specific. I just don't understand why coaches, they like to go into that shotgun thing. I know it's the vogue and the rage that everybody else is doing it, but if you got the personnel to do something different and it's better than what everybody else is doing, why not do it? That makes sense to me, and I see it on all different levels, and I don't understand why they do what they do. All right. Wait, what? I just told you I'm from Florida, and I don't know what else you want me to say. So the question is, will Buffalo now get by the Chiefs? We already got a comment about the calls that the Chiefs get. Yeah, they do get the calls, but Buffalo, I just think they might just have a little bit more magic this year. You know that the Chiefs, they've been living on borrowed time all year long. They've been scraping by with close wins, and what's kept Kansas City in these games is their defense. And that defense is going to have to stand up against Buffalo, because I think Buffalo, you're going to come up with a United States, man. I think that if Buffalo can control the clock by running like they did last night with Cook and run the quarterback a little bit more, they stand an excellent chance to go into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs. But like it was stated earlier, you're not just playing against the Chiefs, you're playing against Mahomes, his magic, and you're also playing against the officials. So just like last night where you didn't make any mistakes, you're going to have to go to Kansas City and do the same thing. That's the only hope you have of getting to the Super Bowl. Now, as far as magic goes, I am not certain if Washington, if they were able to get by Philadelphia, could beat any of these teams in the AFC. But if they were to get by Philadelphia, you know they're going to be sky high with confidence, and that's going to be a team that you're going to have to beat. And you can just be able to show up and beat that team like you thought you would have 4 or 5 weeks ago. They got that magic riding with them, and they have shown you by beating Detroit, the way that they beat Detroit, that they're going to be a hard out. And that's going to be 2 interesting matchups next week when Buffalo goes to KC and Washington gets the rubber match with the Eagles. Now, the Rams yesterday, I think the cold affected them more than the Eagles, of course. But the Rams had opportunities there. They were dropping a lot of passes, and they did enough on defense to win that game and completely disrupted Philadelphia. But the offensive miscues that they had, giving up the sacks, holding on to the ball too long, and fumbling the ball, the Rams cut their throat. And oftentimes that's the difference, just like you saw with Baltimore. you can't turn the ball over at critical times. You can be the greatest team in the world, and in football, you have that one bad night. It's not like basketball where you got two other games you can lose and still win the championship. And I think it's just like life. You get one chance in football. Either you take advantage of it or you don't. Vernon Robertson says Detroit had 16 defensive players on IR. I'm aware of that, but they were also on IR when they were winning all those games. So if you didn't use that as an excuse for why they lost the games, why they won all those games in the regular season, you can't now come back and say that is a reason why they lost. They lost to Washington because Washington had the confidence that they can beat Detroit against that depleted defense. And when it came down to stopping Jaden Daniels, when he had everything else covered, he outran the rush. There's nothing you can do about that, whether you're healthy or not. It would have been nice to see if, what's that guy, the pass rusher out of Michigan, if he could have played, and a couple of other guys on IR. Yeah, Detroit was a better team, but that night they got outplayed by Washington. And I'll tell you something else about Detroit. As great as the head coach is, and as great as he is at inspiring his players and taking chances, I think the chances he takes oftentimes is at the detriment of his own team. That little pass with Jamison Williams, you're in the game. This is a playoff. This is not the regular season trying to show or prove everybody how tough you are. You got to score now. All that getting overly cute and stuff, by him throwing that pick, that was the backbreaker really of the game because Washington turned that into a touchdown. Now, if you take that away, you keep the ball because Washington never really stopped Detroit. Detroit cut their own throat. You threw an interception in the end zone. Then you got that interception by Jamison Williams. Detroit was right there. But I think Campbell, he needs to come to grips that he doesn't need to take as many chances as he takes. They don't have anything to prove now because they're there. Now they got to get over the hump. Just like Baltimore, they got to find out what they're going to do next. Now, more than likely, they're going to lose both their coordinators in Detroit. They're talking about Glenn down here like he's a real good candidate to be the next coach of the Jaguars. And everybody wants Ben Johnson. I'm not quite sure why. It seems to me like he's a great number 2 guy. And you see what happened, he created bulletin board material for Washington because he turned that job down. And lo and behold, he gets beat by the same team that wanted him. But now, what's he going to do? He has opportunities. He's probably not going to be in Jacksonville, even though a lot of people think he should be here, primarily because he doesn't want to work with a sitting general manager. And the one that they have here is very polarizing. And he may be the difference as to what kind of coach they get in here next time. So, but I expect all these hires with the Cowboys and the Raiders, all this stuff should take place in the next week after everything settles down, especially now that Johnson and Glenn are out there. It's just a matter of getting the interviews in and the owners making a decision. But, Detroit, they're in a position that they've never been in the Super Bowl era, I should say. But they have championships before the Super Bowl. And a lot of you youngsters out there, yes, they did play NFL championships before they coined it the Super Bowl. But it's just ironic that the teams that they lose to are always the same. They made it to the NFC championship game back in 91, and they got knocked off by Washington. So this is the first time that Washington has actually been to the championship game since they beat Detroit back in 91. So what are they going to do with this opportunity? A bunch of young kids running around. They got nothing to lose. They kind of stole the last game they played against Philadelphia. That was in Washington. And now they're going back to Philadelphia. And you see the blueprint. Philadelphia seems to have cracks up front. You see what the Rams were able to do to them and beat them up pretty good. Sacked the quarterback a number of times. Not sure exactly how many times it was. But, yeah, they beat up on the quarterback last night. And if you want to beat the Eagles, it's kind of like with Baltimore. You're going to have to stop Barkley. So if you slow Barkley down and don't give up the big play on the outside, then you can beat Philadelphia. But if Barkley is able to rip off these 50, 60-yard runs, then I don't see Washington being able to get by Philadelphia. So that's my early call. It may change in the next week, but the basis of it all, it comes down to fundamentals. Just like Sean McDermott said last night in post game to his team, you know, they got pushed around by Baltimore, but Baltimore made the critical mistakes, and because of that, Baltimore is going home. Buffalo didn't make the mistakes, and that's why they're going on. And it's going to be that way, especially in Kansas City. It's going to be colder there than it's going to be in Philadelphia, and fundamentals, taking care of the football, is what's going to count the most. Now, that's pro football. College football plays its championship tonight down in Atlanta. In I guess you want to call it the Peach Bowl. I don't think it's called the Peach Bowl because they already had that. But this is the championship game. They're playing in Atlanta tonight at 7:30, I believe. And you have Notre Dame getting on with Ohio State. Kind of a David versus Goliath kind of matchup in the sense that Ohio State is supposed to win. They got the fancy roster. They got all the speed, and they got the exciting style of play. Whereas you have Notre Dame kind of playing an older style of play. They want to run the football and control the clock and then turn around and play some good defense. So on offense, what they're going to have to do is continue to do that to be able to stay in the game. Now, what they can't do, Riley Leonard, he can't throw a couple interceptions and then expect to get a late interception like they did against Penn State to steal that game, if that's going to happen. Also, they're going to have to be able to control the receivers from Ohio State. Now, they do have some pretty good defensive secondary players, so they can match up pretty well defensively. And it's just a matter of how many big plays can they prevent against Ohio State. But I think what's going to happen is they're going to be able to run the ball, and it's going to come down to some third down situations. And whoever wins the third down tonight is probably going to win this game. A lot of people think that Ohio State's going to blow out Notre Dame. I don't see that. I see Notre Dame keeping it close with their style of play. But Ohio State can stop the run too. But if Ohio State is able to stop the run and they're able to run the ball, then they're going to beat Notre Dame by at least 2 scores. But the intangible here is that when you're playing against teams that get on a magical run like Notre Dame, one or two things are going to happen. Either they're going to continue on with that style of play and maintain contact with the other team and pull out a game the way they've been winning, or they're going to get blown out. So the question is, which Notre Dame team is going to show up? Are they going to get to the championship game and all of a sudden realize that, hey, man, we playing in front of the whole world. We're playing for the championship, like TCU did. All of a sudden they couldn't play anymore because they realized, hey, man, we're in the wrong place. Well, at least that's the way they felt or the way they looked. They're a much better team than what they were. It's just they didn't match up front, and then when you add to the fact you start to get afraid, then you didn't have a chance to begin with. And I don't think Notre Dame is going to go out like TCU. It should be a nip and tuck game. If Ohio State is to pull away, in my opinion, it's going to be late in the third quarter or early fourth. They'll start to pull away. But if Notre Dame plays a clean game, it should be nip and tuck all the way to the end. And I think if Notre Dame, with the magic they have, they got the ball with one chance to go down and win it, they're going to do it. And that's just the way it go. And then you're going to hear the talk again, well, should Ryan Day get fired? This is a ridiculous question that should never be answered, asked in the first place. This man here, what's he lost, 3-4 games in his time there at Ohio State? To consider firing somebody like that with all the success they had under his watch, it's just crazy. But it's not a unique situation, though. If you look at high school football, a lot of people in certain places look at that like it's the be-all, the end-all. Take Georgia, for instance. Valdosta High's got the most wins out of any team in the nation, and they got most state championships out of any team in the nation. You can go 14-0 in Valdosta and lose a state championship game, and they want to fire you. Don't come back next year and lose 2 games. You might as well go in and pack your bags because you're not going to be there very long. How are they doing it, or how are they able to win like that? You can't do that without bending the rules some kind of way. And it's been discovered that, when you have the windows where you can get the players on the field, Valdosta players never really come off the field. Some kind of way they're getting some kind of extra time in there. That's how they're able to be so good on a consistent basis over the years. They ain't doing the same thing everybody else does. And kind of with the transfer rules now, with down here in Florida, players go play with their buddies, and somehow they always end up on the same teams. So what you have here is the coaches who can get players recruited, whether they do it themselves to get some immisery to do it for them, they end up with great teams every year. And in some of them in places where, how is this even possible? But with the transfer rules now, it's easy to cover that stuff up, because if you have positions open in your school, you can't turn a student away if you have vacancies. But the only thing that can stop that kind of thing is if an athletic director says, you weren't here when trials started, so you can't play. But there are only a few of those out there who would do that. Everybody else can go along with the program. And if you don't want to benefit from it, and your athletic account is improving because you're getting people to come to your games, who's going to say what? So it's all about where your morals are in that case. But I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent on that. But the big thing is Baltimore snake bitten? I think in a sense that they are, but at the same time they did it to themselves. All you had to do was catch the ball. All you had to do was hold on to the ball. Yeah, it's easier said than done, but we all play football. We know how it is. It just goes back and forth. But if you lose 3-0 in the turnover battle, hell, 1-0 is detrimental. You might as well forget it when you got 3. It just so happened that Baltimore was good enough to stay in contact with Buffalo to allow them to, be in that position in the end. So I think oftentimes these coaches are going by these charts about when you should go for 2 and all of that. Well, they had went for 2 earlier and they missed it. If they hadn't gone for 2 then, they scored a touchdown, they could have kicked the extra point and would have had a tie game. So, yeah, it's easy to say that after the fact, but why rush when you don't have to rush? Go for 2 when you have to go for 2. But, just like Dan Campbell, he's going to go by his own chart, and he's cost his team more than once behind that. And I think it caught up to him, along with the injuries, as Vern Roberson said, that Detroit had all year long. They'll come back better. They'll have a different scheme, because I think Glenn, he's going to be going somewhere. And besides, people are calling for him to get fired in Detroit anyway, because being a little bit too aggressive at the wrong times. And that can go on both sides of the ball. But Detroit, if they had a chance to do it again, I think some of those aggression plays that you saw, they wouldn't be there. So, but Baltimore, yeah, I'm a Steelers guy. You with me? I give you credit. I've been riding Jackson all year long about his ability to take a team down the field when it counts the most. He finally showed me that last night that he can do it. So now I need to see if he can continue to do it when it counts the most. But you won't see that until the playoffs, because the Ravens, with the roster that they have, they're going to be in position to make the playoffs, especially now where you got 14 teams in there and they're talking about expanding even more. Ravens are going to be around as long as they have a healthy Henry and a healthy Jackson. They're going to be okay. But the question is, can they get over that hump? And while they're getting better or trying to get better, so is everybody else. Pittsburgh, they'll be back. I seen a report the other day where they're talking about changing the style of play, because everybody's pretty much caught on to what they're doing. And even though the personnel changes, it's still the same results that they're getting. They have these wild swings where they go on winning streaks, and now they finish the season losing 5 in a row. So that's not championship football. Tomlin knows it. The organization knows it. And I think that some of his messages has gotten stale in town. And he has to change. He has to reinvent himself. Otherwise, he's going to be changing locations after next year. But speaking of changing locations, let me say this before I get out of here. The Bears, they are following the wave of the HBCU coaches. Michael Vick is the new coach at Norfolk State. And he's probably not going to be there long. If he shows that he has any aptitude to lead a program and get them to win, he's going to go up to a bigger program. That's what happened with Eddie George. Eddie George took Tennessee State He's winning at Tennessee State, putting himself in position to win conference championships. Now he's the hottest candidate for the Chicago Bears. The Bears are rushing to interview George, and if he interviews well, you might just see George as the next coach of the Chicago Bears. Deion Sanders, he's considered a candidate for the Cowboys, but I don't think that would be a good place because, like I said before, I think the only reason Deion is coaching was for his sons. He said he never considered the NFL. Then all of a sudden, about 2 weeks ago, he come out talking about if he can coach his sons. Well, the only way he's going to be able to pull that off to coach his sons is to go to the Raiders. The Raiders pick like number 4, and the Cowboys picking like number 12. If he is picking 12, he's not going to be able to get his son if his son is good or as hot as everybody say he is. Now, he had to cut some backroom deals to get his son to come in at number 12, and he can bring his defensive son in on a free agent contract. So he can pull that off there if he can cut a deal with other teams. But for certain, he can do it if he's with the Raiders. A lot of Tennessee fans, I talked to, I did the post-game interviews with the people for Fango Media here in Jacksonville, and they talk about the last game they played was against Tennessee, and they would rather have Shador, as opposed to a Cam Ward to come in at Tennessee to be their next quarterback. So with Tennessee, with that top pick, they are more than likely, they don't have the top pick. New England has the top pick. I think the top choice for Tennessee, if Deion doesn't have anything to do with it, he has opportunity to go to Tennessee, but I think he's probably going to end up with the Raiders. And if he does end up with the Raiders, it might be a good opportunity for Deion to come and fulfill that wish of coaching his sons. But he started the trend with the former players in HBCUs. Now you got Michael Vick, like I said, at Norfolk State. You also have Deshaun Jackson at Delaware State. And Eddie George currently is at Tennessee State. Before that, Hugh Jackson was at Grambling. I think he's doing high school right now. Ed Reed, he had Bethune-Cookman, but he fell out with the administration. I know you guys remember that. But he has since landed as the offensive coordinator at Chamberlain High School in the Atlanta area. And his son is also playing with Jamal Lewis, who is also working with the program there. So if the transfer rules, they aren't as loose as they are in Florida, you just have to do it in a timely manner up in Georgia. That's going to be another program that jump off the charts all of a sudden up there, because you're going to have these two high-profile NFL players with their sons playing. They're going to bring in some other guys that want to play with that. And Chamberlain is going to be something that you have to deal with as long as you have Lewis and Reed as a part of that program. Take Teddy Bridgewater down here in Miami. Now, let me put an asterisk by this. You can't say that they won just because of Bridgewater, because Northwestern is one of the premier programs in the state anyway. So they got talent that comes through there. But when you got a guy like Bridgewater that's still playing in the NFL, people want to be attached to that because they feel like he's got some kind of connections that can get them forward. He got so many transfer requests down there, you had to start turning some people away because you don't have enough room for all these people, man. And that's what happened down there. When you have a big name, these players are going to come because they feel like that is their key to getting to where they want to be. But in reality, I don't care if you on a team that has won 1,000 straight high school football games. If you don't fit the height and weight chart and speed, what those colleges are looking for, you're not getting a scholarship. But having said that, when I was coming through school, the idea was to get in college to try to make it to the pros. But now if you make it to college, that is the pros. You guys now walking around with $9-10 million NIL deals, and they're in a position to set themselves up for life just by playing a college sport. So why be a rush to get to the NFL when you can go play college sport? Look at that guy Carson Beck, and he's got a 6-year eligibility. And I don't know how these guys get these 6, 7, 8, 9 years of eligibility in college, but if they're going to give it to you, take it. He's got a $10 million NIL deal with Miami Hurricanes, and he's down there with his girlfriend. So it's a win-win-win. And if he can do what Cam Ward did last year, he'll boost his draft stock. So Carson Beck, he's straight. There's a whole lot of guys straight. That guy, I forget his name, starts with an M, the Tulane quarterback. He transferred to Duke. He's going to get $10 million. So I tell my guys that if you want to make it to big-time college football, you need to be working out 3 times a day. Team activities, you need to have a morning routine, and you have to have an afternoon routine and get your diet straight, and you can make it to the college and set yourself up for life before you're 21 years old. And I think that a lot of these young guys, they don't really feel like they can do that until they find out too late that they could have actually done that. All right. Michael Catanzaro says, Mark Andrew calls the Ravens to lose. Bills, I hope you beat the Chiefs. I don't know if he called them to lose. I think that he was in that position to make a play, and he didn't make it. He kind of lost his footing on that 2-point conversion there, and he did fumble another one. Jackson also fumbled. Von Miller picked it up, and it set him up for a touchdown. You're not saying that Jackson caused him to lose, so how can you say that Andrews caused him to lose? Andrews is a very good tight end. He'll come back, and it's just unfortunate in that situation. He didn't make the play. Kind of remind me of what's his name, Jackie Smith for the Cowboys, who dropped that pass in Super Bowl 13. Steelers were going to run away with it anyway. They made it close in the end, but had they caught that touchdown, it would have made a big difference in that game. But Andrews, that's a tough break. They're not going to cut him because of that, and he'll be back. He just in the unfortunate position where it made him look that he's the one that cost him that game. But he's not the only one that made mistakes. So spread it around, man. That's why you all got the same uniform on. You're all on the same team. But Michael also says, I'm glad the Eagles beat the Rams. Why you don't like the Rams, man? I think the Rams, they did the same thing Baltimore did. They put the ball on the ground. But defensively, they pretty much shut the Eagles down. If you take away those 2 long runs by Barkley, what do the Eagles do? And you got to know that the Commanders are going to have some kind of response to that. You know, they play against the Eagles twice already, and they play against Barkley even when he was with the Giants, so they have some idea about how to try to slow this guy down. And Hurts, he's not hitting on all cylinders. And like, what's his name, Smith, or is it Brown? Number 11 for the Eagles. He's on the sideline reading, man. I guess there's nothing wrong with that if that keeps you focused, but at the same time, you weren't playing very well yesterday. He didn't produce at all. And I think that had something to do with Hurts getting harassed by the Rams defense, but you know that Washington's going to come up with a similar plan. You get those young guys coming off that ball, man, it can make a big difference, especially if they start to believe. And right now, they believe. And that belief started when they came back and stole that game from Philadelphia late in the season. They hadn't lost since. Matter of fact, they had to keep winning just to make the playoffs. And to get by Detroit, the way that they whipped Detroit, they don't even see Philadelphia. And I think Philadelphia, once Washington beat Detroit, they had it in their mind that, hey, man, we're going to the Super Bowl because we know we can beat Washington. All we got to do is get by these Rams, man. They've done that. Now, how serious are they going to take it when they play Washington next week? I think it's going to be a problem. Mike says, as a 49ers fan for 47 years, Rams are the enemies of the 49ers. All right. I didn't want to say this because I want you guys to think I was some kind of bandwagon person. But I'm a Steelers, number 1. But the Rams earn my respect in Super Bowl 14. If I want to watch a Super Bowl over and over again, it's going to be Super Bowl 14. The Rams that day, they came in as a wild card. Back then, they only had 5 teams that made the playoffs. They came in as a wild card, and they beat Dallas in the first round. Then they come and beat Philadelphia. Then they had to beat Tampa in the championship game. Jack, what's his name? Youngblood. He playing on a broke leg. They went to Super Bowl 14 at the Rose Bowl and whipped Pittsburgh. The only reason Pittsburgh was able to win that game because Stallworth beat Rod Perry twice deep, and Rod Perry was a safety. He just got over there late both times. And then Ferragamo, he had what's the name? Billy Waddy, wide open across the middle. He hold the ball, look away, and throw it late across the middle, and it got picked off. That don't happen. Pittsburgh loses. So the Rams earn my respect. So ever since then, I've been watching the Rams. And in 1980 was the first year I started. That's the year they brought in Billy Sims. Billy Sims from Detroit, and he opened up against the Rams in Anaheim in 1980. So I go all the way back with you, Catanzaro. So you know what I'm talking about if you've been following them for that long. But the Rams would jump right into the 49ers backpack, and you know it. And they go back and forth, and the Rams had that lull where they didn't do nothing for about 10, 12 years, but they don't see the 49ers. And like you say, they are the enemy. Yeah, they are, and they always will be. And it's even great now that the Rams have now come back to California, where they're supposed to have been all along, and that rivalry is going to go on as long as you have the NFL. So I think it would be great. All right, Washington could knock out the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Yeah, hot Washington team can. What if Washington gets to the championship game and all of a sudden realize they're in the Super Bowl and lay an egg? Again, I referenced TCU. That's what happened to them. Mike and Kansas said I was born in 77. Well, I got 6 years on you, but we're close enough. We talk about the same kind of things. But the 49ers are a good program. They got hot there for a while, and I think they come back down to earth. But what they're talking about doing is bringing in Robert Saleh to rebuild the defense. You know, he was the coordinator before he left to go with the Jets, and I think that he would do a good job there. But they just got to figure out the personnel-wise. No more Patrick Willis, man. They'll get somebody else. All right. NFL might change the playoff format soon. What are they talking about? Bringing 8 teams to the playoffs. And I don't know, man. You can't put the whole damn league in the playoffs. I mean, that would be half the teams. It's not like the NBA where you know, it don't really matter. I think what they're doing is making money. The more teams you got in the playoffs, the more TV coverage, and the more money comes to the league. But how much is enough, man? I mean, if you just watering down the product is what you're doing. And you see the same kind of thing with the NCAA tournament. I think 64 was a great number. But now you're adding all these different teams. All that's for extra money, man. I don't think teams should have a bye. I think everybody should play around the piece. And if you really want to make the NCAA tournament better, all these teams that are supposed to be on the bubble every year and end up seating them 12 and 9. Hell, if he's really on the bubble, he's a 16 seed. So match him up against that 1 seed, then you'll have a better tournament and you're going to have more upsets. But they don't want to do that. All right, snake bitten on the Cowboys. Mine's in Baltimore, but Cowboy 9s and Baltimore, but Mark should have caught the ball. Yeah, he knows that. I mean, it's not like he tried to miss it on purpose. They want to go by wins and losses for seedings. I don't agree with that. I think if you win your division, you should have a home playoff game. I don't care if you're 7 and 10. That's just the way that the system is set up. You can't be a unique league and try to do everything everybody else does. If you win your division, you go have a home game. It's just like the guy from Minnesota, the coach came out and said that they knew the rules before the season started. All of a sudden, you want to start changing the rules. Kind of like Donovan McNabb. He's the catalyst for why they changed the overtime rule, talking about he didn't know what the rules were. All the money you make, you're supposed to know what the rules are, so that was no excuse. All right. But yeah, I think that they should keep the playoff system the way it is. If they change that, then somebody's going to say, well, let's change the seedings after you win your first round. You know, I don't think that should happen either. I think you earn what you earn during the regular season, and then you go play. It's 0-0 anyway, and all you're going to do is determine who goes on the road or not. And if you're an NFL team and can't play on the road, hell, you should be in the playoffs anyway. This is not college football where you get treated like a homecoming opponent. So that's just my idea about that. But yeah, I'm interested. Okay, Steve Young played quarterback at my high school from 77 to 80. What school is that? I thought that Young was from Utah. I didn't know he was from California. I know he played at BYU. Yeah, I thought Young was older than that, but I guess not. Class of 81. Steve Young. Chain the seating. And that was Arthur Valtepina that says snake bitten are the Cowboys. Well, I think the Cowboys make for good storylines, whether they snake bitten or not. I think it would be a mistake if they brought Dion as the coach, because just like he said, he's going to get upset with those professional players, and it's not going to look good. It's going to be turmoil in the locker room, and he's the one that's going to end up losing his job behind that, because he's done everything. He's successful. Why put up with that crap if you don't have to? And I think that's a good reason why he should stay in the college ranks, because he has more effect on those guys than he ever would on some rich, settled, grown men who gonna say, well, you're not playing now. You're just a coach. And that's just gonna be problematic, because he's a hard head too, and he ain't gonna deal with so much of that crap. All right, Nathaniel Gabriel, music champ. Some have it, some don't. Lamar does not have it, neither does Herbert. Okay, let's go through that one by one. You say Lamar does not have it. Now, I'm riding Lamar Jackson because in the playoffs, he hadn't been able to get it done to get his team to the playoff. To a higher level. And when I'm saying he didn't get it done, as a quarterback, I don't care what kind of offense you run. I don't care what kind of players you have around you. When the game's on the line, at some point, you're going to have to stand in there and throw it. He can escape. And he can make plays with his legs to open up some things and drop it over somebody's head. It's kind of like backyard football in a lot of ways. That's, for the most part, what he had shown me. I needed to see him standing there and throw the football when the game is on the line. Now, last night, he had to take his team down the field to score a touchdown, and he did that. So as critical as I am of him, he did what I've been wanting to see from him last night. So I can't say that he doesn't have it. Now, he doesn't have the arm like a Caleb Williams, who can throw deadly passes on the run, and he's not a sharp passer like Jaden Daniels is on the run. If he was like that, then you wouldn't be able to beat Ravens with that running game that they have. So he needs to continue to improve on his game. And he's doing that. But you also got to take care of the ball. At some point, he's going to run around that corner and somebody's going to lay him out. I'm not saying he's going to get hurt, but he's going to get hit to the point where he's going to have to get up and he can't run anymore. He's got to stand in there and throw that ball. And that's what I've been saying all along. Anybody can, if you get around the corner, you can get first downs. But at some point, you're not going to be able to get around the corner. You got to stand in there and throw it. He didn't do it last year against Kansas City. That interception and triple coverage, that was completely unacceptable for a professional quarterback deep in the playoffs. You can't make that pass. And I wasn't going to let him off the hook for that. And a lot of people, they overlook stuff like that because, hey, Lamar, how great you are. You don't need to hear that. I said, look here, man, throw the damn ball when I need you to throw it is what he needed to hear. And I've been saying that the whole time. Don't have anything against the Ravens. I'm just telling you the truth. Now, Herbert, he's not ready yet either. He made some bad throws against the Texans that cost them that game. But you can grow from that. If you look back over history, there hasn't been very many quarterbacks that come in the league that was already playoff ready. Ain't been a whole lot. But this guy Daniels, he might just be the first one. He's a rookie. He got his team into the championship game. No rookie has ever taken a team to the Super Bowl. Now, Roethlisberger almost got him there, but Roethlisberger was a victim of NFL coaching. What do I mean by that? I'm saying to you that the NFL coaches are the best in the world. In high school, the talent on your team usually dictates who wins. Well, in traditional high school, because that team over there is going to have something you don't have, and they're just better than you. There's nothing you can do about it. But now you can create these all-star teams to kind of alleviate some of that. But still, there's only a handful of teams that can compete with that state champion. College is tightening up a little bit more because the scholarships have been changed around so much now that Ohio State can't put 50 stars in their freshman program while you don't have any. They can't stockpile like that anymore. But the pros, it comes down to coaching because there's not a whole lot of difference talent-wise in the NFL between the worst team and the best team. It comes down to coaching. And Roethlisberger, as he was winning all those games as a rookie, they started to come up with different game plans to try to slow him down. And by the time he got to the playoffs, it became increasingly difficult for Roethlisberger to be successful. That's why Roethlisberger didn't make it to the Super Bowl as a rookie. But Daniels is a different breed. When Detroit came up with the plan to stop him, they had to rush on him, but he was able to get away because he's young and fast. There's no defense against a player that can make that kind of play. If he sees you, you're dead. I often call, when I was playing, I used to call defensive players wolves. They were only effective if you didn't see them. Yeah, they hit you when you got your back turned and they make a great hit and they jump up and down pounding their chest. But if I see you in open field one-on-one, I can beat you. I see you inside the gap in the hole, I can beat you if I see you. But if I don't see you, then you get a chance to get a big hit on me. But with this guy Daniels, he sees you, he's going to run away from it. So he's going to be hard to beat. All right, Michael says he plays at Greenwich High School in Connecticut. Man, I thought sure he was from Utah, but I looked that up. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but I got to see that for myself. So Steve Young, Greenwich High School, Connecticut. I looked that up. Code name Kid the Next Door. I'm new here. I'm a Chiefs fan, and this wasn't Lamar's fault. No, it wasn't his fault. I was actually giving his credit for doing what I've been wanting to see him do, and that's lead his team down the field when it counted the most. He did that. Now, can he do it again? I don't know. He's got to do it more than once to satisfy me. But I can't say that he can't do it at all now because I've seen him do it. It's kind of like when I was riding Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart would get his team up to the doorstep of the championship and blow it. But once he started winning the championship, I can't do nothing but give the man his credit. I ain't rode him since. All right. Daniel Music Channel says Mahomes, Brady, Montana, Bradshaw, only a select few have it. Manning, Brady had it from the beginning. I don't know if Brady had it from the beginning. I think Brady, he came into a good situation, and his style of play allowed him to develop as he went along. But to say that he had it in the beginning, I don't know. I wasn't sure about Montana. What Montana did have was magic. He had the magic to bring teams behind. He did that while he was in college. And I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but they were getting whipped one day by Tampa Bay 35-7. They came back and tied the game up and won it. I mean, this was the fourth quarter, down 35-7. They tied it up, sent it to overtime, and won 38-35. Look it up. And Bradshaw and Noel did not get along. It was to the point where he wanted to force a trade to get out of Pittsburgh because Noel wouldn't let up on him. And finally, they started to win, and they never really had that great relationship. It was to the point that he didn't think he was very welcome in Pittsburgh, even though he had won 4 championships. When he went back after those years and they brought him in for Monday Night Football is when he found out that he was wrong all that time. But no, Bradshaw, he kept going back and forth with a couple quarterbacks. I can't remember, what's the guy from Michigan State in the early 70s? Terry Hanratty, John Gilliam. No, he didn't never have it made in Pittsburgh. It was at the end of his career when he started to pull away. All right, the only way Daniels would prove that he has it if he wins the Super Bowl. Otherwise, he will only be considered a super talent like Lamar. Well, it's an unfair label to say that you can't do it, but you got to remember, this is the NFL. If you make it to this level, you have to be of some great talent to do what you're able to do against other NFL players. So again, you have to give them credit for being good enough to play in this league. And the bottom line, whether we fans like it or not, is to take care of your family. These guys cashing some very, very large checks on Tuesdays. And then you get playoff money after you go to each round. They're doing very well. So when you hear guys like me criticizing, first thing they do, they're going to open up their electronic bank account. They're going to look at all those zeros. They're going to look at their wife and the kids and see if they're all right. they're going to log off, and they're going to go about their business, because the point is to take care of your family. And that's just the way it is. And if you look at it from all different angles, look at Dion, look at Jerry Jones, look at all these, there's so many examples out there that it's not really that important in the bigger scheme of things, because all these sports things are really just entertainment. All right, Jason Williams, I'm from Buffalo here. God bless the Ravens. That was a great game. Turnovers hurt them. Can't say anything bad about them. That spot reporter needs to keep our team and say that out of his mouth. I missed that part about the reporter. I did hear the coach said that the team exonifies the people of Buffalo. I never been there, but I had an aunt. They started a church there on Rhode Island Street. I don't know if you know where that is. I assume that's on the east side, but Rhode Island Street is where that church was. So I just got to understand about how some of those people are up there. But a lot of those reporters, if you listen to what they ask these players after the game, it'd be some of the dumbest questions in the world. They're talking about emotions and what were you thinking when you made this play and all this. Man, forget all that. Come straight to the point and ask the man something that he can answer, instead of the same old jack-in-the-box questions that nobody really wants to hear. Matter of fact, nobody even hardly listens anymore because they ask dumb questions. But yeah, those reporters, they say some dumb stuff, man. But yeah, turnovers killed the Ravens. It was a great game, but it's football in a nutshell. It don't have to look pretty. It has to be effective. And if Buffalo was able to not turn the ball over, and it allowed them to win the game, then that was beautiful. Getting the win is beautiful no matter how it looks to the people. And I'll give you an example. I told you guys before, I'm up for a high school coaching position, head coach position in football. And the team that I'm looking at hadn't won anything in 20 years. And it's all mindset. And I told them, I will cut most of those guys that don't believe that they can win. And if I don't have but 15 to 20 players, that's what I'll play with. If I had to do the tush push and get 3 yards of play and move it down the field like that and score a touchdown, and you don't get the ball to the midway through the second quarter, so be it. If that's what I have to do to compete, that's what I'm going to do. And I tell you something else. If I was able to tush push you all the way down the field and score a touchdown and push it into the second quarter, guess what? I'm coming back with an onside kick and do it again. And we can push it to the third quarter before you touch it. Guess what? That's your problem, not mine. I would do whatever it takes to win a football game. And I don't care what the fans or the other coach thinks. We're going to get it done. And it's going to be about a rule book. And that's just what I'm going to do. All right. Isaiah Jackson said there's going to come a time either this week or in the bowl where Jalen Hurts is going to have to make plays passing if Barley gets shut down. Well, it's the same argument I made with Lamar Jackson. Hurts going to have to throw it. He's a decent passer, but for him to stand in there and beat me strictly with his passing, no. He's going to have to run the ball. And it seems to be a little gimpy. He had 128 passing yards yesterday. That's because the Rams got after him. They beat on him. And if you're going to advance in the playoffs, your defense line got to beat on that quarterback, man. But sometimes that can be a curse. You can beat on the quarterback, make a legal hit, and they still call a penalty for you. You never know what these NFL officials are going to call. So this is why people now have the idea that the NFL is rigged, because they come up with these calls that seem to be mind-boggling. Like last night, the Ravens guy came off the corner. He falls down. They call holding on the Bills' left tackle. They didn't even touch the man. How can he be holding? And the questionable calls like that make people start to wonder, are these games already predetermined? I do rideshare, and about a year ago, I picked up a guy. He tells me that he works for a company that they get the scores, the results of the game before the games even take place. I don't believe that, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. And if that's the case, what are we all fighting with each other about if this stuff is fixed? Okay, Louis Valère says, stop crying and complaining, and y'all lost my guy. I'm not complaining. I'm a Steelers guy. I'm talking straight up football, so I don't know who you're referring to. Can you be more specific about who you're talking to, Mr. Valère? The NFL is going to beat the Bills. All right, now you just contradicting yourself. You saying stop crying and complaining, but then are you saying the NFL is going to beat the Bills? How does that equate? Now I know what you're saying. You think that the NFL are going to make calls against Buffalo at critical times. Yeah, they will. It's like I said at the beginning of this broadcast. I said the Bills are going to have to play perfect like they played last night. They got to take care of the ball. They're going to have to slow Mahomes down, and they're going to have to beat the referees. I said that in the beginning. So, what do you mean about complaining? I'm not complaining. I'm simply laying it out. Now, I don't know if you're talking to somebody in the chat or you're talking about me. All right. But it should be some good games. And it makes for high entertainment, and the NFL is getting what it wants. I don't think they should really care about who makes the championship round. It would be a great story if the Commanders got there. And maybe I'll start calling them the Commanders if they get to the Super Bowl and win it. But as far as I'm concerned, it's still the Redskins. You just got a different logo on the helmet. Same color, same everything. They just call it a different name. But yeah, the NFL, you never know what they're going to do, man. But I think that Kansas City is living on the edge. As good as that defense is really the thing that's holding them up. What I can't understand is why teams let Travis Kelce get loose and be wide open all the time. And when you know that's who he's trying to go to. You don't have a Tyreek Hill. Well, you do have a guy that can do it, but they're not using Xavier Worthy like they did Tyreek Hill. So you should be able to clamp down on Kelce a lot better than what teams do. All right. Wonder if the Chiefs pay the refs before all games. How the refs favorite the Chiefs? Well, I think the NFL plays a role in all that. You know, the officials used to make the calls on the field for replay, but now it's the ones in New York making the play. So they're determining the outcome of all these key calls. And if you notice, they don't usually change a whole lot if it's for the team that a lot of people think shouldn't be winning. All right. But that's an interesting question, Canizaro. A lot of the same questions people ask. But I don't know why the league would worry about that, because they're getting the viewerships, the stars. They're going to have to be major stars to make it to that point in the playoffs anyway. So I don't see how the league is hurt by that. Now, if you compare that to, say, the NBA, I used to watch, especially in the 80s and the 90s, how they would call great games all the way to the last 3 or 4 minutes. And all of a sudden, they start blowing the whistle against teams that don't have that same star power. So, in other words, like the league was protecting the stars. Now, it's hard to do when you have two teams with two equal stars on it, and it made it much more difficult for you. But you can best believe in the last couple of minutes, the refs were going to favor the stars. And they are not shy about putting a star player on the foul line with less than a second left. Seen it several times. And I don't think that's right. I think that's why a lot of people are turning away from the NBA, because of the product that they have. You know, they changed the style of play, just like all 3-point shooting now. And I go down to the city park to watch that. And they're not really featuring the big fella like they should. And then you start sitting out all these games that they do, load management, they call it. And it's just a product that's losing steam fast. And if they don't hurry up and change it, people are going to turn their back on the NBA. And if the NFL gets to be obvious like what they're doing in the NBA, then people are going to start moving away from the NFL. And I'll tell you something else, which is a warning. That Pro Bowl with the flag football is precursor to the future. The league is using that, in my opinion, as a test ground to see how fans will accept it. So far, it's favorable. So who's to say that they won't start infusing flag football games into the regular season? How would you take that? Think about it. Isaiah says, what should the Steelers do about their quarterback position, and do they need to move on from Tomlin? 18 years and his message against Dale. Yeah, I already talked about that. I think Tomlin, he has already met with the owners and they made a decision that they're going to reinvent themselves. They're going to come with a completely different approach so that what we're talking about don't have an effect on them. It shouldn't be too hard to do. I think they kind of wedded to the past in a lot of ways, that, that tough defense and, run the football excessively. But if you think about it, they've kind of gotten away from that. But you can't get too far away from that when you got to play against Baltimore, because Baltimore, as long as they got Henry and Jackson, that's just what they're going to do. So Pittsburgh's going to have something to combat that. You got to have the defensive roster to be able to play in several different ways. That way, you can play against diverse teams like Baltimore and then go against Cincinnati, who's going to light you up through the air. But should Tomlin move on, if he doesn't do anything after this year with his so-called reinventing themselves, then I think it is time to move on. A lot of people were already calling for him to get fired last year, and then to lose 5 straight like he did now, it might just be time for him to go. And what do I think they're going to do with their quarterback? That's a good question. I think what they should do is open it up truly and let Justin Fields get an opportunity to win that job. And even if you came back with the same situation with Russell, I think you need to get Fields on the field more so that you can create matchup opportunities. Not like a slash per se with Cordell Stewart, but you can still have packages in there where you switch it up. Not to the point where you don't have the clear leader, but you can still bring it in situations where he can be effective. They tried to do some of that, but very little. I think they need to do more of that. And Canzaro says, All-Star NBA game's a joke. No defense. It's all three-point shooting. Well, just like the All-Star games, the regular season becoming just like that. And the NFL Pro Bowl is a joke. Also, flag football stinks. Well, it's good for a gimmick. But I will say, even though I don't like it a whole lot, when they were playing the Pro Bowl, those guys weren't really playing very hard. They might play a little hard the last 3 or 4 minutes because you make a little bit more money if you're on the winning side, but they weren't really playing. And flag football does bring in different element to that. And you would think that players don't get hurt as much, which they don't, but it's still a way for them to examine that to see how the fans are taking it. And I think the way they keep changing the rules and trying to eliminate contact out of the game, 20, 30 years from now, 2 things you're going to see. You're going to see flag football. You're also going to see co-ed. I think that's the way things are going. All right. Mason 24/7 says, I think current Justin Fields is better than current Russell Wilson. Well, we didn't see enough of Justin Fields to determine that. I didn't think he was a bad quarterback. I don't know why Chicago got rid of him. They saw the opportunity to get Caleb Williams, and he's a once-in-a-lifetime talent, but you can't really say that either because he didn't have the same success as Jaden Daniels. Daniels came in as a rookie, too. Why is Daniels having so much more success than the Williams? And I think some of that has to do with style of play. Daniels is running an offense similar to what he did in LSU, but not Caleb Williams. They doing that old slug-it-out NFC North style of play where you run the football and timely passing. I say turn him loose like you did Jaden Daniels, and then you'll see a different Caleb Williams. And I think Justin Fields, he's among that same style of play. You got to put him in position to make plays. But again, I don't care how fast you can run, how many times you can escape around that corner. At some point, you're going to have to stand in there and throw it. And just like, I forget what it was, mentioned about Jalen Hurts. He's kind of gimpy now. He doesn't seem to be, even though he popped one. I think that you got to stop Barkley first. If you stop Barkley, the same game plan that you have against the Ravens, you have to stop that run first. You have to stop Barkley and then worry about Hurts later. Because I don't think he can stand in there and purely beat you with his arm. He can make some throws. But Brown, he don't seem to be hitting on all cylinders right now. I think Smith is still dangerous if you can get it to him. But if you pull a hat on him like they did last night, he's going to cough it up. And the key to beating the Eagles is Barkley. You got to stop that run, man. All right. But anyway, I don't know, man. I woke up this morning, it's like 30 degrees outside. I knew the cold blast was coming, but it ain't supposed to feel like Philadelphia down here, man. And tonight they're talking about possible snow, but I heard that before. I don't see that. I think you might get some snow maybe around Savannah, but I don't think it's coming this far down. I don't know. But anyway, tonight won't be the NFL, but Ohio State, Notre Dame, that's going to be a good game. I think if Notre Dame doesn't turn the ball over, they can hang with Ohio State. And the longer they hang around with Ohio State, the more chance they have to winning. But if Ohio State separates at all, 10 points in the first half, then it's not going to be good for Notre Dame because they just don't have the firepower to stick with Ohio State when they're making mistakes. Is Ohio State invincible? No. That receiver Smith thought he was until he played Texas. I told you ahead of that game that if Texas don't have anything else they can run, they got speed. And they're going to have somebody that can match up with Smith, and they showed him. So now he has to regroup and realize he's not invincible. And I think that if he's able to get off, which Notre Dame has some defensive defenders themselves, if he's able to get off and Ohio State can run the ball and they get a little separation in the first half, then they're not going to beat Ohio State. Could get ugly. It all depends on what is happening with Notre Dame and Riley Leonard. If he's able to convert on third down, we got ourselves a ball game. Chris Bristol, what's going on, man? The Super Bowl is February 9th, I believe. And the finals, basketball, I don't usually get into that until the All-Star game, after the All-Star game. Right now, football is always king. And like I told you guys before, and I know you NBA purists would disagree, but basketball is just something to do until football comes back around. And football is not over with yet. We still got a couple more weeks. And after that, you have the NBA All-Star games. So if you check with me, probably March 15th, I'll tell you who's going to the finals. Vote you for president, sir? No, I don't want to be no president. I can't be like Trump. If I'm 80 years old, I'm sitting down somewhere on the beach, chilling. I'm not trying to get into some high-stress situation where I have to deal with the rest of the world. I don't want to be bothered. Hell, I don't want to be bothered now. So you know doggone well I won't be bothered when I'm 80 years old. Isaiah Jackson said 30 degrees. I'm in Pittsburgh and it's currently 9. Well, I can handle 9 degrees as long as the wind is not blowing. I went out to shovel and it lasted 5 minutes. Well, look here, man. If I didn't have nowhere to go, I wouldn't have been out there in the first place, man. But Jackson, you were Steelers, right? So what do you think Tomlin's going to do? He's talking about reinventing himself. He's going to come up with a different style of play. I take that to mean that he's going to take Justin Fields and he's going to run a similar play to what Washington is doing. You know that it's monkey see, monkey do league, and he's got the same type of player with Fields as Jaden Daniels. So it's going to be interesting to see how that. I just told you. What finals you talking about? The NBA? If you're talking about the NFL conference championships, Washington's going to Philadelphia at 3 o'clock. And at 6:30, Buffalo's going to Kansas City. The winner of those 2 games is going to play for the Super Bowl in New Orleans on the 9th, if that's what you're talking about. But if you're talking about basketball, I can't tell you anything about basketball until mid-March. Basketball is not even on the radar screen. But yeah, but the finals, okay, I think you asked me who's going to the Super Bowl. I'm going with Buffalo. And if Washington can stop that run, I'm going with Washington. So it'll be a Super Bowl 26 rematch. Won't be in Minnesota this time. Still be in a dome, but this time in New Orleans. Well, I don't hate basketball. It's all right. I mean, it just ain't it ain't football. So I'm kindred spirits with you there, Mr. Bristol. But anyway, I love to talk with you guys all day. It's a lot of fun to me. We got a basketball game tonight. We got this conference tournament that we qualified for. So if I have a signal, we're in the, I think we're the 11th seed out of 12. If we get by this, then we get the top seed. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to broadcast that live, but I can't do it a lot of times because I don't have a signal. But it'll be a good diversion for tonight. High school playing, they've been playing some decent ball, our team, and we got some decent basketball here in the city. So hopefully we get a chance to see some good ball tonight. So if I get a good signal, I'll put that on. But meanwhile, I gotta go brave the cold for a minute. Gotta go take care of some business. But I appreciate you guys joining in with me. Please like and subscribe, and I catch you guys on the other side. Hopefully I can come on later before the Notre Dame Ohio State matchup tonight at 7:30. Matter of fact, let's pencil it in, say 4 o'clock. So I'll be back then. Until then, wherever you are in the world, you guys have a great day. Catch you on the other side. This is Sports for Real. I'm out.